Why's that coming up for you right now, Kyle? Why? Body shots? Like out of someone's belly button? You are on some kind of wavelength, aren't you, Kyle? DarbyCast, WildCard Friday. Kyle decided to pivot from gun violence into body shots because body shots can mean something in terms of firearms, but in terms of being a degenerate at a club, you go to Ibiza, Kyle? Yeah, you'll have a lot of chicks drinking bottom shelf vodka out of that hairy belly button of yours. You don't do any manscaping, do you? And I respect that in a lot of ways, but there's other things about that I'm like kind of startled by. What a bush you have is what I'm trying to say. But it's DarbyCast and it's WildCard Friday. Gun violence is on the table. And yet again, we've got the usual suspects, baby, saying what they say every time. As conditions worsen in the country and things seem to be spiraling out of control, the only sensible choice is having fewer rights. That's what they're saying. And their little minions too. Boy, isn't that getting old? And then you got abortion chicks coming in hot. You're like, why are guns less regulated than my uterus? And it's like, Katrina, I don't even know where to begin on this. If you have a felony, you can't get an abortion. Is there a 10-day waiting period for you to get an abortion? If you've ever taken an antidepressant, no abortions for you. Does the right to abort secure a lot of other rights for you and those around you? Is that how that works, you idiot? Golly. Man, the internet was a major mistake for some people, allowing some people to speak. And I get it. First Amendment, you got to let them speak their piece. But then you got the powers that be propping these opinions up and being like, Whoopi Goldberg has something to say about abortion and gun control. Give it up for Whoopi. But gun violence. Boy, does the left really misrepresent the right when it comes to just about everything, but especially gun stuff. They're like, oh, so you just love seeing kids get murdered. Is that right? And it's like, yep, you found us out. That's what we're quietly rooting for all the time. Dead kids. We love that. Good Lord. And nobody really talks about this, but if you removed the cities of Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Baltimore, and I believe like a Philadelphia from gun violence statistics of the country, all of a sudden the U.S. is like pretty low on the top list of countries for homicides. And you know the people who are calling for mass gun grabs, say all the guns were taken away. They'd be calling for sensible knife control. Say all the knives got taken away. They'd be calling for sensible bat control. If all the baseball bats got taken away, they'd say we need sensible knuckle control. If people's hands were cut off, they'd be like, we need sensible, contemptuous looks control. And we've been over this on the DarbyCast. Boy, have we. That you don't have to take people's opinions seriously based on their track record. You just kind of listen to the things that they say and be like, oh, you have no command of logic and reason. You've missed on most major issues. This is your opinion about gun control? Oh, where did that come from? You sound like a refined thinker. You ask them questions. You say, well, what are some other issues? What do you think's leading up to this? What are the causes of gun violence? Evil. It's obvious. It's evil. It's evil white guys. That's it. Oh, okay. Okay. Good job. Well, you nailed it. It's tough, right? Being a well-adjusted person in this world of ours. I think we're just right around the corner from going back to global warming, having a couple more kids. I don't know if Greta Thunberg is back on the menu, but she probably will be in the next day or two. Greta Thunberg weighs in on gun control. Guns are scary. Thanks, foreign autistic child. You made me rethink the way that I understand natural rights. And you ever notice that all these people calling for gun control, it's not like they would be doing the gun confiscation. It's not like they'd be going door to door. Bunch of chicks named Regina doing no-knock searches. Okay, turn them over. Right. No, it's always somebody else doing it, isn't it? Yeah, let's get Whoopi Goldberg and a tactical team of her cohorts going with a battering ram in Alabama, going door to door. Just being like, it's over, Jimbo. Turn him over. That's when things get really weird, right? When they forcibly go for a gun grab. That would be the most violent time in American history. And I nominate Whoopi Goldberg to lead the charge. Boots on the ground. Blue check marks on Twitter, you get in there. You get the heck in there. Take a little initiative. And since you're so convincing with your words, you can't be armed when you go in looking for people to disarm. You have to go in, do it yourself, but you can't have any guns. We'll give you water guns. We'll give you super soakers. Okay. Whoopi and company. And blue check marks. I'm totally for that, actually. Is blue check marks going door to door to confiscate guns? I think that plays. That's what needs to go down. I'm for gun control by the blue check marks if they're doing it in person and they can't be armed with anything. But isn't it rough? Let's just kind of pivot back to the overall conceptual framework of this. Isn't it rough listening to these people who have these grand ideas that aren't theirs at all? They're just conduits, human repeater signals, and they have such a flawed understanding of every issue, right? Carefully ignore most of the reality of any situation. People who are against the climate change agenda obviously hate bunnies and they hate the environment. They just love pollution. Damn it, Katrina and Whoopi Goldberg and other blue check marks. It's pretty funny, though, listening to them talk. I think a lot of these people don't realize that people laugh at them all the time behind their backs. I look forward occasionally, Kyle, to when you show me Twitter screenshots. It just cracks me up. Or when you send me little screen recordings or, again, screenshots of people on Instagram who like change their profile pics and then have something to say about an issue. And boy, is it just rough. But it's kind of nice too, because you know who the idiots are, because they're shameless about it. They just shoot up their hand and say, I don't know a damn thing about anything, but that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to talk about it. You love that, right? What else is happening in the world, Kyle? Biden stumbled into authorizing force against China with Taiwan, and then his staff immediately walked it back and was like, no, no, Joe, son of a bitch. That seems to be happening more and more often, right? Biden just being asked, like, are we going to go to war with country X, Y, and Z? And he's like, hell yeah, we are. And then his entire team has to cover for him and say, like, Joe, it's, yeah, you are a liability, aren't you? But I got to be honest with you. I really do. Anybody who's like super focused on foreign policy right now at the expense of everything that's going super sideways domestically, pretty weird. How much money did we send to Ukraine, Kyle? 40 billion? Isn't that how much Elon bought Twitter for? And everybody threw a shit fit and was like, he could have stopped world hunger with 44 billion. That was the purchase price, right? But you send 40 billion to Ukraine and all of a sudden they're like, hell yeah. Gosh, they just don't really get it, do they? And by it, I mean most things. Kyle, is this episode funny? Am I being funny right now or am I just dropping heat? Because sometimes it's a little bit of both. I can index either way, right, Kyle? I'm pretty good at that. Truth be told, Kyle, I've had a nice cadence, and you have been supporting me in that, where it's like delightful nonsense episode, powerful episode, riddled with great call-outs. Like almost too many great call-outs. That's the feedback that I've been receiving. At the email address, info@DarbyShireUSA.com. I see a lot of those emails, Kyle. You've been pretty delinquent at checking that inbox, but those emails that are coming in, people are just like, wow, nice. I don't take issue with that. Words of affirmation, I appreciate that. But what else is going on stateside? Formula shortage? Gals are coming to the realization that as moms, their boobs do a function, and it's probably better than just blasting your kid's face with dehydrated milk powder and corn syrup. Who would have thought, right, Kyle? But then you have blue check marks, a lot of idiots going out there and saying, well, some women can't produce breast milk. It's like, all right, that's a pretty small percentage of mothers. It's like under 5%. And why is that? Let's zero in on that. Stress levels for ladies, high. Okay. Modernity has forced many a female into the high stress position of dudes. Like being a dude is not always a cakewalk. And gals were duped into it. They're like, you want to be as manly as possible. It rocks. And it's like, no, you have to process a lot and focus on the ugliest things in life. Since when is that oppression, right? When dudes used to take a bunch of things off of ladies' plates willingly, they're like, hey, we like you. You're soft, gentle, dainty, good-hearted, pure-spirited. We don't want you fighting physically or politically because it's hell. That's not fun. We want you to focus on things that make you happy, and then you can tend to other important arenas, but like where it's a total slugfest, either physically or verbally, like you don't have to do that. We're going to go ahead and do that for you. And then you had a bunch of blue check marks coming in hot and being like, no, chicks should engage in the political psychological warfare. Otherwise, life's not fair. It's like, wow, boy, are you just misrepresenting everything, aren't you? What else is going on? Kyle, gas approaching $10 a gallon in certain areas. That threshold will be crossed. Biden came out and said, this is actually a good thing because people who are struggling financially will come to the conclusion that alternative energy is the way to go. Yeah, when you're poor and you're getting poorer, nothing makes you feel better than getting a lot poorer. And then being like, oh, I needed a hybrid this whole time. I'm so stupid. And take my guns while you're at it. Gosh, I'm an idiot. You love it, right? What else is going on, huh, Kyle? I'm going to relay the thought that you shared with me before we started recording. You said this is going to be a very George Floyd-y style summer. And I know exactly what you mean when you say that. And that is startling. But that's just kind of how things go in our country now. You've got the never-ending cycle of that's sexist, that's racist, that's homophobic. You're anti-science. You're anti-Fauci. He's too sexy to be disagreed with. Haven't you heard? And speaking of Fauci and epidemiology, monkeypox, heyo, right, Kyle? You're scared of it? Then just don't have butt sex in saunas and go to raves and have butt sex. That seems to be the major vector right now. I've got a couple theories on this whole monkeypox thing. I really do, Kyle. There's the theory that it's sexually transmitted, mainly from anal. In which case, Kyle, I don't think you have to worry about that unless you're leading a lifestyle that would include that. And I might have to give you a little bit of coaching and say, have you heard about vaginas? Not bad. But there's also another theory that I have, and that this could just be a cover story for the increasing amount of complications related to the experimental medicine, otherwise known as the... Thematically, Kyle, this episode that we're doing right now, fairly inconsistent. But it's nice, okay, Kyle, to bring people up to speed on the goings-on of the world and quench their thirst in case they were wondering what the hell's actually going on. Easy to get overwhelmed when psychological warfare is turned up to a 12 out of 7. We all know this, but that's why people come to the DarbyCast to recalibrate, sort out what the heck's really going on, or just to hear thoughts that they themselves have as well, and they can exhale. DarbyCast doctors can listen to this exhale and be like, oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. All right. Other people see this how I'm seeing it, and I am, in fact, dead on in my assessments of the nonsense of the world. What else is going on, Kyle? Food distribution plants seem like there's a lot of fires and accidents happening. Seems as though a manufactured and purposeful famine might be on the horizon. What a treat, right? DarbyCast doctors, I've told you this many a time. Stock up on peanut butter. Get a lot of peanut butter and align yourself with some local heroes, preferably Christians. I've said this, maybe not on the DarbyCast, but I have certainly said this to you, Kyle. Imagine a reboot of the George Floyd era, but add extreme hunger to people who are rioting, looting. That's going to be a real bad time. I don't know if you saw videos of the riots, if you're listening to this, but at a few points, things got pretty sketchy, pretty out of hand. And you know how crowd control worked back then in 2020? This is real. You could probably go find the videos if they haven't been scrubbed from the internet. You had people bringing out boom boxes when a crowd would get a little too justicey, and they played the Macarena, and then all of a sudden the crowd just started doing the fucking Macarena. Hey, Macarena. And people were all doing the dance, and they were like laughing and smiling. They went from arson and property damage, widespread theft, to doing a 1990s Latin line dancing style whodunit. That doesn't work when everybody's starving and they have themselves and potentially others to feed. Macarena fails. I wonder if there's any good YouTubes called Macarena Fails highlight reels. What does that even look like, huh, Kyle? When the Macarena goes wrong? Very dangerous, very inappropriate. Let's focus on some stuff that's going on that doesn't matter at all. Midterm elections, obviously. Anybody who is getting ramped up, be like, we got to hit the polls. We got to raise money for candidates. How shameless are politicians in asking for donations at this point? It's like, listen, we understand that you're all on the same team. Left and right. Left, full of unhinged lunatics who are unashamed of their lunacy. And then the right, just like entirely impotent. If anybody's excited about a red wave coming in 2022, like take a hard look at yourself in the mirror today and be like, what the fuck am I talking about? That is something that might be important. One thing, DarbyCast doctors, that I'd like you to key in on in a pretty substantial way is you look at voter turnout at this next election. If the voter turnout is incredibly low, you're going to want to key in on that. Why do we want to key in on voter turnout, DarbyCast doctors? I'll tell you why. Because if the numbers are incredibly low, that means something. That means that more and more people have given up on the idea that there are, in fact, democratic solutions, political solutions, to the way things have been going. And if you're one of those horses that's a little bit late rounding that final corner, the race is already over, okay? Glue stick, duct tape, Whoopi Goldberg. There's a horse, real slow horse named Whoopi Goldberg. If you happen to be one of those horses, you will not be in the winner's circle, but we'll give you some water and your oat bag when you cross the finish line. But you got to cross the finish line. You don't get the oat bag or a sugar cube while the race is still going on. You're not going to get a trophy for dead last, despite the fact that you think you deserve it. But that's life, right? That's life. Kyle, is this really depressing? My outlook? It's just highly realistic, synthesizing a lot of different pieces of information, having a deep understanding of the way things are going. Boy, would I like to be wrong about a lot of things, but it just doesn't happen that regularly, does it? DarbyCast doctors, if you've listened to this show for a reasonable length of time, you're well aware that the call-outs that happen here are generally 6 months to 2 years ahead of what would be considered mainstream thought. So if you would like to know what's actually going on, you go back in the catalog and you're like, oh, son of a bitch, this guy called it really early. What the hell? That's kind of the reaction a lot of people have when they listen to the DarbyCast. They listen to a score of episodes and they say, whoa, turns out this fella knew what he was talking about the whole time. This is concerning, but also refreshing. What else is happening, huh, Kyle? Pfizer still beating the drum of kids taking the... Is there anybody, Kyle, that exists who's been holding out on the until now, and then after all this time, they're like, you know what? I'm going to take it. And I'm going to give it to my kids. Yeah. The old Vaxaruski just got authorized for children under 5, I believe. Good call, right? People seem to be contracting all sorts of weird, inexplicable illnesses and complications. Let's do it to the kids, right? There are a lot of parents who are exceptionally fired up to blast their kids with some mystery science juice. Fuck yeah, science, right? They are thrilled. Sure, there are people dropping dead from coronaries who look otherwise healthy, and the major variable that's changed in their entire life is that they've taken in an experimental medicine. But let's ignore that, and let's give it to kids. What do you say, huh? Should we? Let's give little Billy a quad dose of some science juice. I love science. Gosh, these people, man. And they're not going to have an aha moment. They're mentally incapable of seeing things in a circumspect way. Be like, wow, our government and all the major institutions that have a serious stranglehold on just about every part of my life aren't on the level. What the hell? Would that just be too much for some people at this point, Kyle? You've just been running the play for way too long. Switching it up and being like, wait a second. All the people making recommendations of how I should live and how other people should operate, they hate us. That would be like a pretty tough thing to digest at this point. If it just hit you like a ton of bricks. That'll probably happen though, right? Be a bunch of people having mental meltdowns. Their mental defense mechanisms just won't be able to hold for a whole lot longer. The dam breaks. And then it's just one gigantic Linkin Park fiesta. I've become so numb. I get it. That happened to me like a number of years ago, but it was like on a slow drip. It didn't happen all at once. It wasn't this informational deluge where the levees all broke at once. Hurricane Katrina. Do you remember that, Kyle? George Bush? He didn't handle that well, I don't think, from what I recall. 9/11, Kyle? Do you remember that? Do I need to come up with a sweeping conclusion to synthesize everything I've said into something cohesive, Kyle? I don't even know if I do. I've just dropped a bunch of really common sense whodunits, left and right, and I think that plays in a pretty astounding way. But I get it. If there's some people out there who can't come to terms with the fact that they've been lied to and duped repeatedly for years, I get that in some sense. It would be too painful, right? To have that experience. You need like 6 months to digest that. You're not going to be able to do a damn thing. You are going to be having a full mental breakdown for 6 months at least. For the DarbyCast doctors who are in the know, all these things that I'm saying are just like, yeah, that makes sense. But for somebody who's not with, the program, which is what? Reality? This would be a lot to take in. Imagine if this were your first DarbyCast and all of these ideas that I'm spitting out quite plainly. Imagine if this were news to you. Gosh, that would be a whole lot to noodle on at once. You'd kind of have to turn the podcast off, wouldn't you? Go sit a couple plays out. Avoid the crushing temptation to get completely shit-faced and be like, no, none of it's real. No, he's a liar. He's not telling the truth. He's evil. If you could resist the urge, just put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's been dialed in with the blue checkmark lifestyle for way too long. Then you hear a bunch of things that make like way too much sense, i.e. the stuff that I've been saying as it relates to a multiplicity of issues. You hear all these things, and then all of a sudden you have this aha moment, and you're like, I want to get tanked. I can't deal with this. And it's like, good job. Good job. I could understand how you would want to explode your mind and not really let any of this sink in. I get it. Listen, many of us have been in the position of going with the program, but then all of a sudden there's an error. An error. Kyle, I feel like I'm saying that weird, but there's an error. Does not compute. I grew up in like a left-leaning / moderate style worldview politics arena. But you know what did it for me, Kyle? It was the whole tranny thing where I was like, this doesn't seem that important. What percentage of the population is dealing with this? Aren't there bigger issues? What about families? And I think that's kind of an inception point for a lot of people who were maybe moderate or left-leaning, that eventually they had that aha moment where they're like, wait, this is fucking stupid. Why does our government care so much about this? Why do they care so much about the freedoms of like a very small but increasing at an alarming pace percentage of the population? What the hell is happening? I had a conversation the other day, Kyle, with a 65-year-old man. And I asked him, I said, are dudes who lop their dicks off, are they girls? Are they females? And he's like, I don't really know. And I just wanted to slug him in the face and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? I don't know anymore. It's like, what do you mean you don't know anymore? Can you imagine spending mental energy on that and being like, what is a woman? Really? What's a woman? Like, does that require any thought or debate? The answer is no. Should dudes who tuck their wings in between their butt cheeks be allowed to compete in women's sports? What are you talking about? The answer is obviously no. There are much bigger issues that we need to talk about. And this is so weird. Like, where has that been? Where has that stance been? Just like what you're talking about right now is so fucking weird and a non-issue. Boy, people have been carted down the garden path, haven't they? And I don't know what you do about it. Do you tell them the truth outright? Do you humiliate them? Do you slap them in the face via a deputized lesbian named Randy? If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back to the episode Randy Stops the Apocalypse. You'll find out a little something about correcting the wrongs of a corrupt empire through butch lesbians that are super high ethics. No problems there. Kyle, have I been ping-ponging too much? There's not a lot of cohesion, but it's just like a nice bird's eye view of everything going on. Great call after great call. Commentary on issue after issue. It's kind of like poetry in motion. That's what you think it is? I tend to agree with you. But I think that's going to do it. Let's wrap it up on DarbyCast WildCard Friday. If you're new to the show, you stick around. And also, you go back in the catalog and you do some damage. The episode right before this one, very different. Very different. Pretty relaxed. Almost too relaxed. Wow, right? Enjoy the rest of your day.